I drank pots and pots and pots and pots of strong black coffee, trying to keep my sleepy soul awake. But the sleepiness still comes along, and when it does, it's fast and strong. I end up with a bad case of the shakes.
Hey, morning, it's Guido. Time for coffee talk. Got my fruity cup. Thanks for tuning in. Grab your coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and we're going to talk about a few things this morning. We're going to start with the chat issue update and some customer service initiatives that Wargaming has taken in regards to that. We'll give you an update there. Then we're going to talk about the Poodle. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's the new Polish Tier 6, essentially a panther. We'll get into the comparison of that. I don't own one, so I can't tell you exactly how it fights, but we'll look at the numbers and see what is there. After that, we're going to dig into the comparison tool just a little bit. I'm going to show you that if you haven't used it, some of the ins and outs of using it and what it can tell you, if anything. So we'll dig into that, get into the weeds a little bit right there. And lastly, we're going to finish up with some deals and missions, because there's actually some pretty good missions, and we'll talk a little bit about philosophy on those things, how to do them, what you're looking for. They're actually pretty nice this month. And we'll talk about some of the deals, and we'll dig back into the Poodle thing, because there's 3 packages on the Poodle if you want to go with that. So as I said, grab your coffee, have a sip. Cold or hot coffee? What do you think? What do you like? Put it down in the comments. Let's get started. All right, we'll start with the update to the chat issue. As most of you know, and not everyone is affected, but a lot were at least at some point, the chat system had a bug, and it's been difficult to make platoons, use the chat, talk to your friends. And this has been ongoing since I believe about May. And finally, Wargaming has done something about it customer service-wise. Now, a quick update. I did say that I could not find any kind of information in the forums last week about this. However, you can see that I've got it called up right here, that there was a post on July 19th from Pueblos. I said that wrong, I'm sure. But he's talking about it, saying, hey, we're sorry, we're working on it. So, interestingly, that post, unfortunately, is not pinned, which makes absolutely no sense. But here it is, update on continuing problems on the 17th of July, or it looks like 19 July, started by Pueblos. So that's good. I was wrong a week ago. However, that was quite a long time after the thing started to happen. So again, a little bit late getting the information out. However, the information is out. So what is the update then? There is info out there, and then we've got this post that's on the main page of their website. We've experienced problems. We're working on a solution. Okay, fair enough. Wholeheartedly apologize for the inconvenience, and anyone who's had a battle since May 1st, 2017 is going to get every Friday 3 days of premium. That's pretty cool. That's a weekend of premium. 3 reserves of 50% credits. Those are fantastic. Those are some of the best reserves you can get right there. And 3 of plus 200% XP, which is also fantastic. This is going to happen every Friday until they fix the issue. And then there's a blurb about how they want to make everyone happy and all that good stuff. All right, so good. That's outstanding. There was info. Okay, so I was wrong. Got it. At least it was there late, so info got out eventually. And 2, they're giving us some compensation. All right, compensation. I'm not really that worried about the compensation. I like it. I'll take it. Thank you. All that good stuff. I would rather have the information than worry about the compensation kind of idea. I play another game. It's called Mini Warriors. It's on the phone. And it's one of those daily login, and you can do stuff, and you grind your little warrior guys up, and they fight and all that kind of fun stuff. It's great. But they often have bugs and issues with their software, and things don't work on the servers, just like any computer game does, online computer game does. But it's interesting and telling on how that little company handles it and Wargaming handles it. Anytime there's a little bug with Trinity Interactive, I believe is the company, with their servers or their game called Mini Warriors, they have a little email system in their game. And it really doesn't matter how the info gets out, but they have that. And they will send you what they call T-crystals, which most online games, especially these mobile games, have some kind of currency. That's the stuff you buy with money, i.e. gold. All right, it's called T-crystals in this game. And they kick out a little pittance of T-crystals at you, and they say, wow, sorry, here's a some tea crystals for your inconvenience. Oftentimes, it's not even something I either noticed or even deal with, but they will automatically, boom, send out tea crystals anytime they have an issue. And it's fantastic. They're not flooding the game with gold or tea crystals. They're not destroying their economy. I don't think they're even really hurting their bottom line. What they're doing is immediately keeping the customer happy. No questions, no excuses. They just do it. I think Wargaming could learn a lot from that. All right, so that's the update on what's going on. It's not fixed. You're going to get some stuff. If you have some premium, you don't know where it came from, that's where it came from. So let's move on to the Poodle and talk about that thing. And the Polish line, which I have no info on the Polish line. The Chinese TDs are coming out before the Polish line comes, but we do have the Poodle. Have a drink. And we'll get on with it. All right, before we move on, actually I have one more thing about that situation with the chat server. Because the unanswered question at the end of it was, what should Wargaming have learned from it? You know, if they had simply given 50 gold to everybody from about the point where it got ridiculous, and I would say that was at least early July, if not sometime in June, we wouldn't even be here. There would be about 30% less forum posts. There would have been less salt. They would have been scoring points even while their software was not working. Seriously, how they don't see that, or they don't have anybody advising them to that effect, is a theme of most of my coffee talks, at least at some point, because it's absolutely insane. It really is. It would have been a pittance. It wouldn't have done anything to their economy. They could make goodwill, and they would essentially make money by giving a little bit of money out. But they get backed into a corner, and now they have this big package that they're giving out. And again, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the info that's coming out. And it was probably a case of it crept up on them a little bit. They figured they could probably fix it pretty quickly, but they didn't end up doing it. But of course, that's not the point, is it? 50 gold a week for 4 or 5 weeks. 6, maybe even 8 weeks. And they'd have come out of this smelling like a rose. Smelling like a rose. Well, that's what I wanted to add to it. Now we shall move on to the comparison of the Poodle. All right, the Poodle. The Poodle is a Polish tank, the first one, and it is a premium tier 6 medium tank. What is it, you ask? It's a Panther. What it actually is, and you'll see I've got this called up for the record back when that was going. Silent Stalker did this in 2013, October 6, 2013. Nice little article on the Poodle and what it was. It was a captured German Panther G, I believe, captured by the Polish rebels in the insurrection in Warsaw when they rose up and tried to throw the Germans out of Warsaw, and then obviously eventually trying to get them out of Poland if they could. It's a bit of a tragic story. It did not go well for them. Initially it did, but at the end of the day, the Germans came in and crushed them. However, they captured 2 Panthers. So partisans, rebels, not really their strong suit driving armor around, but in a general uprising, they wanted to get the firepower. They took the opportunity after they knocked 2 of these tanks out. I think they actually knocked 3 out, but 2 were still working. Eventually, they got them going. And there you go. So this ends up being the first Polish tank, and it's a premium tier 6. Interestingly, it is basically a tier 7 hull, because if you'll recall, the German Panther is a tier 7. Downgraded to tier 6 because it's more or less a stock Panther, or very close to it. That ends up being a bit of an advantage. When you up tier hulls, that usually doesn't go too well. You can take a look at the Revelors, whatever it is, which is a pretty good tank, but the hull itself is a tier 6 hull, and it doesn't really upgrade very well. But in this case, we've got a Panther that's downgraded to a tier 6 as far as the hull goes, and we'll take a look at the numbers then and see how that works out for the Poodle. You can see that I have the comparison tool called up. We're going to get into the comparison tool in a minute. I will tell you some of the ins and outs of this, but so you know, I have taken all these tanks here, set them up with 100% crew and no equipment on them, so it should be just a stock, fully upgraded, and again, we'll get into that, but with 100% crew. So this is none of my crew, none of my equipment, just the top of the tank. As far as the modules go, clearly that doesn't matter in the case of the 4 premiums that I have, but it does in the case of the 3 tech tree tanks. So I've Drug in 3 of the good mediums, the Panzer IVS, the 3485M, and the Cromwell. These two especially considered 2 of the best in class. I like the Forest quite a bit. And then we've got the Tech Tree tanks, the EZ8, the 3002, which is kind of the same idea as the Poodle, very similar tank, and the Type 58, the Chinese tank. So taking a look at the numbers, purely the numbers, I do not have this tank, so I can't talk to you about how it actually fights in game, but we can take a quick look and see where it kind of ranks amongst its peers. So firepower, this is an arbitrary number, not arbitrary, but it's basically an invented number by Wargaming on where these things sit, and it kind of totals up all this information, and they say, hey, look, the Panzer IVS, his firepower is a 261, which makes it the best in class, and it takes into account all this stuff. Okay, that may or may not be valid, but let's look at the actual numbers. 135 damage, which is right up there. The 3045 is well ahead of everybody. Average pens at 150, which is nice. Top of class right there. We get down to rate of fire, pretty good. Reload time is decent. Turret traverse is in there. Cromwell B, top of class, but it's just a zippy little tank. Gun depression, this is an important stat. -8, elevation 18. That's usable. Very good, actually. Not nearly as good as the EZ8, but the EZ8 is an outlier with that fantastic depression. So this is usable on most places on the map. Should be able to even get a little bit of ridge poking there as long as it's not too much. Aiming time is pretty good, actually. Decent accuracy, that's standard German, pretty good accuracy, but you can see they're all more or less the same, aren't they? In fact, they're almost exactly the same. Dispersion is good, not fantastic, but not bad. And then average damage is right in there. So what you can see right off the bat as far as firepower goes, that this is under the new idea of premiums that they're not worse than their peers in class, which is true for these 3 and pretty much everything they've put out. So if you're buying this premium tank, you are getting essentially a tank that can compete at tier 6 along with the rest of them, plus you get the experience and you get the credits. Getting down to survivability, this is where the Poodle starts to shine a little bit. It's got extra hit points over most of them, other than the other 3002M, which is the other German tank. The hull armor is actually pretty good, and the turret armor is decent. So side scraping will be a player against in-tier tanks. Once you get to tier 7 and 8 guns, obviously side scraping is not going to do a whole bunch for you, but it might. Mobility is decent, and what you'll see here is it's the heaviest tank of them all right there. Engine power, it's got 700. That's top in class, but doesn't really translate to a whole bunch more speed because it's so heavy. Although it's not bad. It's doing 55 and 20 backwards, so it's as fast backwards as any of them. You can see that the Cromwell mobility is completely out to lunch, completely overpowered. The Wargaming number is 765, which is 100 and more above the nearest competitor of the VK3002. This is insane. Anyway, traverse speed's good. All these numbers are decent. As I said, it's going to be a good rammer. Get down to concealment. You're not really going to hide from anybody. Pretty much worst in class, actually, other than the 3002. And it's a big tank. Concealment, as I said, is not good. And then the moving concealment. View range is 370. It's right there along with the rest of them, so no problem. Although you'll note that they're all more or less the same number. Most of them are 370, and 2 of them have 10 meters less. And then we get down to signal range, and you'll be glad to know that your signal range is the best in class. Sidebar, it would be really nice if Wargaming made radios matter somehow. I have a couple ideas on what they could do, but it would be cool because then it would matter why you're upgrading a radio. Some people don't even upgrade radios. Once you get to a certain tier, you may not even need to do it. I did it just as a matter of course. So what does all that mean? The Polish premium is a pretty good premium tank. And in tier, it competes. So I don't think you're going to have any problems with driving the Poodle around, being effective, making some credits, the extra credits and the extra experience. As far as that goes, pretty good. Although I don't think it is overpowered in any way, shape, or form. All right, so that's the comparison of the Poodle to its peers. And now we will move on to checking the list twice here. The comparison tool itself. Talk about the comparison tool because there's some ins and outs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down by looking at how you set it up. Okay, take 2 on the comparison tool. Right down there I had that I own you graphic, and it covered up the stuff I was talking about for about 7 minutes. So I get to do it again. Cheers, let's have a drink of coffee. Comparison tool, how does this thing work? easiest way to get into it as far as I'm concerned, I'll clear it out for you. Okay, so that goes away, is to right click on the tank in your garage. So I have sorted this by tier 6 mediums. I want to put the, let's say we'll put the Cromwell in there, add to comparison. See how it's right there? And then it calls up that comparison tool icon, and the Cromwell B is in the comparison tool, and we will add then the 3485M, add to comparison. So now we have two things in there, Cromwell B 3485M, and let's put a tech tree tank in there. We'll make the Sherman in there, and we'll add to comparison. So now we have 3 tanks that we're going to compare, right? Now, you don't see the Poodle, so I want to put the Poodle in there, but I don't own it, and it hasn't been a rental, so I can't click rental. It's not a rental. I don't own it, so there's no way really that I'm aware of to get to the Poodle from here, which is fine. Never fear. Click to compare, and you will get the comparison tool up. From here now, I can add things like tanks I don't own. So I'll click Add to Comparison, and I get a new window that allows me to sort. So I will sort by tier 6, and then I will sort by medium, and then I probably could have saved myself a lot of time and sort by Poland, and lo and behold, there it is. Obviously, had I just sorted by Poland, it's the only tank in the Polish tree, and it would have come right up. But that just lets you know all the different ways you can actually sort in there. All right, and then you've got the filter by primary vehicles if you have your vehicles set up like that, which I don't use. Click on that, click Add, and voila, the Poodle is added to the comparison tool. So we've gone through those numbers, you know what it means, but let's talk about how you set this up because it is important. Right now you've got kind of various setups for these tanks, and we'll get into the configuration of those, but it has to do with the equipment you have set up for your comparison, the type of crew you have set up, and anything else like food, anything that affects these stats right here. So let's jump into the configure for a premium tank. You can see that I own a Cromwell B and I have a crew. So it says you're using the current crew for your comparison, and your crew happens to have these skills. So I can turn those skills off, or I can turn them on, and that changes these numbers over here. All right, so you can see the numbers for the specific tank. If you want to open that up and see what the specific numbers are changing are, you can do that, or you can close it back down. So current crew, and I can change all my skills. Note that when it came up, it gave me my current crew and their current skills, but I can do whatever I want from here. Or I can have 100%, 75, or 50%. Realize if you don't have a crew for that tank, then you're not going to get a current crew selection right there. Also, down here, modules, which I can't do anything with because this is a premium and it doesn't have any modules to upgrade. Down here, I can also remove equipment with the X, or I can add equipment. So equipment that's going to change statistics of the tank, I can add or remove down here, and that's going to, you can see, change numbers. Interestingly, the binocs will immediately bump up the spotting. It doesn't matter whether you're moving or not. I mean, it's just a comparison tool, so it's assuming the binocs are working and cooking when you do that. I can also change the ammo type. You'll see that the firepower changes when I click on APCR. This icon means that this particular piece of equipment doesn't do anything for stats, but guess what does? Food, fuel, changes things. And then I can turn on or off camouflage. Just like that. Okay? So I can do all of those things. That's a premium tank. Yep, and I just did the thing that I was going to warn you against. You notice that I went out because I hit garage. The way to get out of the configuration is to hit close over here, and that will bring you back to the configuration. But let's take a look at a tech tree tank. I have the current crew in there. Let's get rid of the equipment. But the thing I want to show you here is the fact that I can change the modules. So I can put a different gun on it to see what it does. I can put a different engine on it to see what it does. And remember that when you change things, you need to hit apply. And that applies, the apply applies to everything else that you do. If I want all of these skills to be on there so I see what they do, I have to hit apply, because if I just go back to here from there, from the close button, then whatever I clicked on there will not be included. So what does that mean? What I usually do for setup is I get rid of everything on the tank. For tech tree tanks, I make the modules the best modules, and then instead of current crew, I go to 100% crew. That's a good baseline. That means that all the crews that I'm comparing in their tanks will be just 100% crew, so I won't get any of the bonuses from my good crews. All right, so I'm getting rid of everything. And I usually stick with the standard ammo, but it may be a good technique just to put the gold if you want to check it out. And again, I got to hit apply, right? So don't forget that. And we'll come in here and we'll do this. 100% crew. I got rid of everything. None of that matters. Apply. And I'll come over to the Poodle and 100% crew. One of the reasons I use 100% crew is I don't have a Poodle crew. So I don't really want to do anything other than a good baseline. I don't have to change anything because I did that crew so that they're all the same. And then you get more of a true number as far as a comparison goes between the tanks. You could go, you know, best equipment if you really wanted to know, hey, if I have 100% crew and I'm running with the best equipment, what does that do for me potentially? All right, but I think this is the best way to go. You just go baseline tank, 100% crew, no extra frills or additions, and you're going to get yourself a good comparison between each tank. It's good for deciding whether you want to go down a line. It's good for deciding whether you may want to buy a tank. And that is essentially the comparison tool, some of the ins and outs on how that thing is used. So not a lot of people use it, and I like to use it for my videos to kind of show, especially if I'm talking about certain tanks, how they stack up against others. But it is a little tricky, and you kind of got to know what you're doing as you get into there. All right, let's move on to the next. All right, let's talk about the Poodle Sale, and then we'll go over some of the missions going on this month. You can see that I've got it called up. This is off their main web page, the Poodle Premium Tank Sale. There are packages you can get. There are fans and detractors of packages. Usually they're a decent deal, but they're usually quite a bit of money, and you get a tank and a bunch of extra stuff. I have mixed feelings about the packages, but the ultimate is $39.99. It's 18% off. I don't know exactly how they come at that number because some of this stuff you can get with silver. So telling me I get 18% off something I can get for silver but with real money doesn't really tell me a whole bunch. But what do you get? You get the Poodle, a garage slot, optics, and vents. Those are the two things, and the medium caliber gun rammer. These are time. This is a time-saving thing, so you're paying some money to save some time. Someone like me who plays a lot, I can grind out the credits. I have all kinds of equipment. I don't have to worry about that, but new players may want that right off the bat, so it ends up being worth it to them to pay the $38.99. You get some gold as well. You get some reserves. That's quite a few reserves, actually, 30. Times 5 for the next 15 wins. That's a new one to me. If they've done that before, I don't remember it. Maybe once or twice in the back of mine. That's pretty cool, though. And then a fully trained 0 skill. This is the X factor right here. All right, so $39.99, you're getting a fully trained 0 skill crew. What does that mean? That means the first skill doesn't cost any experience. So the second skill, as it is experience-wise, as if it was the first skill. Tracking on that? That makes that crew quite valuable as far as the game goes, especially if you're planning on grinding ad nauseum and get a really good crew. These crews are easier to get skills on. Period. Dot. That does not exist in the $29.99. That's not true. Sorry. There it is. Does not exist on the regular tank. All right. Some people will buy tanks like this, and then the second time they buy it, they get the gold for the tank, but they're looking for that second 0 skill crew. Interesting way to do that. As an example, the Berlin Quartet was a lot like that, and I believe it still happens that way. For $29.99, you get the same thing essentially minus, it looks like, the reserves and the times 5 for the next 15. Otherwise, it's more or less the same package. So it's $10 for reserves, a little bit more gold, obviously, 1,200, what, 50 more gold, and then the times 5. So I don't know, that one, if you're going to go $29.99, you might as well shell out the next $10 and get the rest of the goodies and the gold at that point. And then you can just get the tank itself with a garage slot for $18. So they believe the tank is worth $19. Tier 6 tank. All right, so we'll move on from there. And we will now talk about, since I quit screwing up, the deals. All right, the deals. Or the missions, sorry, not the deals, but the missions. There's two ways to look at this. You can look at it on their main page. So it's Back to School Tank Academy roll call is what they're calling it. So we got people going back to school pretty soon. And obviously the missions tab, and we'll get to that in just a minute, in your client will also show you some information. But one of them is useful for understanding what the hay is going on, and the other one is useful for tracking. This one's most useful for understanding what the hay is going on because it's just spelled out, in a list format and it's not looking at icons and stuff splashed over all over your screen like it is in the missions tab. But the missions tab tracks it for you, because you can see that right here I don't have any kind of tracking on what I have personally done. But it will tell you what you got going on. Daily roll call, you're going to get a reserve, and you need 10,000 experience over any number of battles. Easy peasy. If you can gather 10,000 experience a day, then you're going to get yourself the 200% booster each day. Tier 4 or higher is important. Once per day, random battles only. So that's the criteria for a daily roll call mission. Should be pretty easy. And guess what? Boosters matter, as do ×2, ×3, whatever is going on that day. Then you've got the classes: light, medium, heavy, tank, destroyer. And I actually like these because what they've done here is they've made it a little bit grindy, but not crazy grindy. So it's well within the capability of most, if not all, players, given enough time and effort. And it's not ridiculous stuff like kill a tank 2 tiers higher. It's just, hey, you know what? Light tanks, they spot, get 4,000 spotting. Thank you. Fantastic. And each time you do that, you get a 200% crew XP booster. Get it, crew XP school. Yeah, got it. There you go. Tier 4, once per day, random battles only. So you can knock that out once a day. You get your booster, and then that clicks off one time of mission light tank class. That's important. We'll get to that when we get to the tracking side of it. So the medium is the same deal, other than you need 20 enemy tanks damaged. Well, not killed, damaged. That's all right. Cool. That's cool. Like that. Heavy tank needs 20,000 damage over any number of battles. Now, they're still tweaking there. So you go to medium. Stepping all over myself right there. They're still tweaking requirements, I think, and understanding their own game to some extent. So a medium only has to damage 20 tanks. All right, just not kill or do damage, but just damage them. Unknown if that is crit hits. Can't tell you that. Heavy tanks, they need 20,000 damage. That's considerably different than 20 tanks damaged. That's very much harder and takes a little bit of grinding. If you figure you're doing 2,000 a game, and for an average player, 2,000 a game at tier 8 is pretty good. That's going to take you, what, 10 games just to do that. And because most people don't average 2,000, in fact, my average is around 16 or 17. Now, that's over an entire classification of tier 1 to tier 10, and my average damage at tier 8 is a little higher than that. But still, for me, I'm probably looking at 8 to 12 games, depending on how it goes, just to knock that one out. For the tank destroyers, damage 10 tanks and deal 10,000. So now it's a combo of those two. You know, they have to make them different, right? All right, so got it. Not bad. And then for Valedictorian, if you are the Valedictorian, you get to give the speech at the end of your grind. This is cool. They're giving away a heavy tank and a garage slot and 100% crew. Unfortunately, and I don't know why they're so tight like this, if you have the tank, which I do, you get 1,500,000 credits in compensation, which is dopey, because if you do the tank rewards one, then you get the gold. So why, guys? What's the difference? What? Unbelievable. But I'll happily get it, because it's actually not that difficult to do. You need 50,000 XP over any number of battles, and you get a month to do it. This goes from August 4th to September 1st. Okay? But you need to be the #1 XP guy, and losses count as well. So if in a loss you're top XP guy, then you get it added to your 50,000 requirement. In a win, obviously, you get it added to your 50,000 requirement, and ×2 and boosters and all that stuff matter. So I'm already at 25 or 26 or something like that. And even for a casual player, over a month, you should be able to knock this out. No problem. Must be tier 4, once per account. That's important. You're only going to get that once, obviously. And then we get to graduation. And graduation requirement is you have to complete the ones above a certain amount of times. So daily roll call 21 times. That's 21 times out of however many days are between these two, which is 25 or something. I'm not doing the math, but it's somewhere in there. It gives you a few days to miss it. Complete the light tank 5 times, then I won't go through, but obviously everything else is 5 times. So 5, 10, 15, 20. And you get these goodies right here. The reserves are probably the best thing, and that's quite a few large and first aid kits and large repair kits. So as I said when I started, I think this is pretty fantastic right here. So let's click out of this bad boy, and we will set up over here, because you may want to know how to deal with these and how to track them. Everybody probably knows the missions tab is right there. If you didn't, that's it. And it's going to call up what's going on. It's got events, missions, and for the tank that you have clicked on in the garage. Let's just stick on events. I'm not going to get too crazy about what the difference between a mission and an event is. I don't even know. I mean, I know, but I don't know. I don't know why they do that. An event obviously takes time, and a mission takes time. Anyway, so we got Tank Academy roll call. That's it. And we've got lots of little icons and special pictures and numbers all over the place. So what in the heck is going on with this? This is the counter. Thank you for that, by the way. Finally, they put some kind of counter. It almost even makes sense. But we have right here, and you click on it, the Iron Seal token. This is daily roll call, which is the Iron Seal token, not the daily roll call token. I just noticed that. I love these. These guys are awesome. The Iron Seal. Does it mention the Iron Seal token anywhere else? No, but it is the Iron Seal token. There's the 21. So the daily one you can do. I've done it twice. That's what that means. I've done it twice out of 21, and I've done all these other dudes once out of 5. Remember, he had to have 5 of each of these and 21 of these, and then you would get the reward of all this stuff over here. That's what it means. See how it goes? Do this. You're going to do for Friday or whatever, you do these things, then you get this. That's the flow. That's what that's telling you. And then you might say, yeah, Guido, what's all that crap down below? Well, let's take a look at it. Valedictorian, we talked about that. Tank Destroyer, medium, light, heavy, and the daily roll call. Can anybody tell me why the daily roll call is in the bottom right, not up in the top left with the Valedictorian down the bottom right? Is it a big thing? No. Is it weird? Yes. Okay, a couple things about this. You can see that it's got the tracker. I'm at 28,000 for the Valedictorian, so I'm already 2 days into it, I'm already pretty close. Shouldn't be any kind of problem over a month. I'm a pretty good player, so clearly good players are going to have an easier time of it. But I think even medium to slightly below average players who are even casual players can probably knock this out in a month. They may need to try a little bit harder and grind a couple times, but there you go. And I'm actually looking forward to the garage slot too. Anytime they throw out garage slots, I love that. Tank Destroyer, I have done 10 of 10 damaged. Okay, and damage caused, I'm still below. So this is a good one because I've completed the requirement of 10 vehicles damaged, but I have not completed the requirement of damage. So that one's not quite done yet for the day. See, this was yesterday. I did 1, 1, 1, 1 yesterday. So this one's not done for today. I look over here, and I'm 0 of 20 for medium, so I haven't even started the medium effort today. Light tanks, no spotting damage yet today. But heavy tanks, I've done a whole 1,584 towards my 20,000. So I've got a little progress on a couple of them, haven't touched the others. Daily roll call is done. 10,000 of 10,000 for today, and it says unavailable. So that's how you know. This is telling me I've got 24 hours left on these guys. Okay? So I've got time on those, but this one's done for the day, and it's a little hard to understand that. I know because I have 2 Iron Seal tokens, which is from the daily roll call. I have 2 of those, so I know that I've completed those 2 days. So it's not perfect. You got to kind of interpolate some of what's going on down here and understand where you were on the missions. But it's not too bad because it is tracking. So technique-wise, what should you be doing? I think this one, you just kind of let it happen as you play. There's not a lot you can do there other than try to play well and get top experience either in a loss or in a win. For the rest of these, you need 20 of them. So that means if you took 20 days and concentrated on one, I think even a casual player could knock that out in 20 days. You know what I'm saying? So say, hey, I have 5-6 games. I think I can sit down in 5 or 6 games with my TDs and maybe knock out one of these for that day. And the next day you sit down and say, well, I think I can probably do damage 20 guys with my mediums today, and I only have an hour to play 4 or 5 games, so I should be able to kind of knock that out. So that is one technique, other than sitting down like an idiot like me and grind it out and just do a bunch of them at the same time. You could have all these done in 5 days if you played quite a bit for 5 days in a row. So it is actually pretty darn easy to do this. The only bottleneck will be waiting 21 days of getting the Iron Seal token for the daily roll call. So I'm going back to school, and it's like the teacher says, Guido, here, and then she's like, Iron Seal token, and hands it to me. Do these all have names? Or are they? It's just a tank destroyer token. Wait a minute. Well, no, that's the Iron Seal. This doesn't have a name because it's not a token. All right. So if you want a Tiger number 6, Japanese tier 6 heavy premium tank, I think this is well within your capability to do. Which reminds me of one last thing that I wanted to talk about because I discussed tank slots just a second ago. And we are going to jump back here because here is something for you guys that need tank slots. If I can find it. No parking, no problem, plus more deals. Check it out. 10 slots for $7.49, which is half price. Now, most people get enough little gold from tournaments or things that they just buy a lot of slots half price with gold. But if you want to throw a little money at 10 slots, that's actually a pretty darn good deal. I'm not shilling for them, but it is nice to see stuff like 50 off. And sometimes people will get in a bit of a bind on tank slots. But there you have it. All right, guys, so there is the mission and a little bit of philosophy on how to handle those things. And we will wrap this up. All right, guys, let's wrap this thing up. What did we talk about today? We talked about the chat issue and what Wargaming is doing about that and some of the things they could do better about that. We talked about the Poodle itself. We talked about the comparison tool in there and how to deal with that. And we talked about the deals and some missions that are coming up for this month. Get yourself a Japanese tier 6 premium heavy tank. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Appreciate your support of the channel. And as always, we will see you.